Well, welcome to a foggy evening here in Ridgecrest, California. Ridgecrest Talk, your host Paul Vanderwerf. Tonight's guests from the Pleistocene Foundation, Ray Kelso. Ray, that's quite a mouthful for your organization. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came up with that name?
Well, I picked the word because I couldn't spell it myself. But the issue is that I had a good friend that was a member of the Friend of the Pleistocene, and so I took that, I stole it basically. And when I put this foundation together, I was always been interested in geology and archaeology and astronomy and all the science stuff. And I thought that would be a good motivator for me to learn more and to keep moving in that direction. And so it was kind of, there wasn't any plan to it. I just did it because I thought I could, and I pulled it off, you know.
So what does that word Pleistocene, what does it mean? I know it's some type of time frame.
Yeah,
what is it?
Pleistocene is a geologic era between basically the last ice age and now. Okay, now since I graduated, there's been a few more scenes stuck in there, but I can't pay any attention to that. I'm old enough as it is. And so that's motivated me to, because I knew so much about the desert, and thanks to China Lake and working in the environmental office off and on for over 30 years, I was able to acquire a whole bunch of knowledge, and I just like to share it. It's that simple. Just give it back. And living here all your life and being one of 5 generations here in the area, I'm not going anywhere. You know, my relatives are buried up in Randsburg and here, and I'm going to stick around. I like it, especially right now. This is the best time of year to be running around. This is the best time of year to take a look. I mean, today was classic. The fog we had in the valley. Bee Mountain looked like an island. Great picture taking stuff. It's a great place to grow up, and it's a great place to run around in the desert in the fall and in the spring.
Right, and we do get that fog from time to time. I have some friends in Kern Valley who reminisced about days when Kern Valley was completely clear, and as they're driving to work at the base, they come through Walker's Pass, and all of a sudden it's a huge fog bank all the way through the valley. And it wasn't that bad today, but I definitely was out this morning noticing that. So you're obviously not one of the new kids to the neighborhood here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in the valley a few years back here?
Well, my grandmother was a school teacher in Johannesburg, and she got to the valley in 1945. My dad came through here in about 1939, but she came to Johannesburg because there was a school, a teacher opening. And she had a cousin that lived in Joburg. His name was Nate Simpson. And so she came out after being a school teacher in Aurora, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver, and ended up teaching 1st through 4th grade or 1st through 6th, depending on how many kids were in Joburg at the time. And so I ended up most of my grade school years living and running around Randsburg and plus China Lake and Ridgecrest. So I got introduced to the desert real soon, and I'm a desert rat. I can't help it.
So you started out chasing lizards and
the
rabbits and all that good stuff.
Yeah. And working in the environmental office at China Lake, I was able to continue hunting lizards on the base. In fact, I've been able to get up to the petroglyphs about 200 times with work issues and environmental assessments and surveys and all that. So I've been very, very fortunate to have an environmental background, and I just want to share it. And you know, the foundation is basically the premise is environmental research and education, and so that keeps me motivated in that direction. And working on the base for 4 decades, being able to stay where you grew up with, it's just been a lot of fun. Been a great time.
Right, and that was one of the things I was kind of laughing at when I was driving over here tonight. Was the community is kind of rallying behind the petroglyphs. A lot of the businesses are putting those on there, and I think when I looked on your website, you already had some of those petroglyph pictures on yours, because that obviously ties in with your theme. And I was thinking, we need to get that on a license plate. You know, what would that take to have the Pleistocene Foundation graphic as part of your license plate when you go in to register? No, I wanted this particular symbol on there, and I just kind of laughed because I think the license plate had a hand on it, and I thought, what in the world is a hand doing on somebody's license plate? But that may be something in the future. We may have we'll have to ask some of our political leaders if we can get that done. Yeah,
we'll see where it goes. I think this will be much more successful in balloon festivals and weather-dependent type of programs. You know, Mother Nature is a female, and she changes her mind quite often. And I think we've got to deal with that. We've got to deal with the cards we're played with. And one of them is the desert. And I just don't think that the desert is utilized by the people that live here and they just really don't know what they have. It's a lot to see, a lot to do. And as part of my foundation, I try to promote basically the desert. I mean, not only Ridgecrest, not only Randsburg or Death Valley, but just the plain old desert. Get out there, take a look. Take a look. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I kind of decided where towns were based on whether I played a basketball tournament or a baseball game. We used to go up to Round Valley in junior high, or we'd go up to, say, Lone Pine or Bishop, and then you find out that there's all this other history. Manzanar, I didn't know what Manzanar was when I was a kid. And even then, I'm still learning that there's just so much more history here in the valley. So what are some of the types of things that you do with your group as far as activities?
Well, it started out, I guess I should backtrack here a bit. I got introduced to scuba diving back in the early 90s, got certified, and that really changed my life. I was scared to leave the valley till I was in till after high school. Actually, I can tell you some good stories about that. And I got introduced to scuba diving, which to me reminds me a lot of the desert. But
all right, hold on here just a minute. We're going to go to a break here. We're talking scuba diving in the desert. That's something I want to hear a little bit more of.
Okay.
This is Paul Vanderwerf with Ridgecrest Talk. We're talking with the Pleistocene Foundation, Ray Kelso, some of the history and experiences growing up in the Indian Wells Valley. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk. Paul Vanderwerf. We're talking ancient things, the Pleistocene Foundation. I don't know if you were here 10,000, 20,000 years ago, but there's plenty of evidence of what was. I'm here with Ray Kelso. Ray, you were just talking about something that kind of stumped me a little bit, scuba diving in the desert. I'm sure we don't have tours out at the Mirror Lake on the base, but why don't you tell us more what you're talking about with the scuba diving?
Well, I got certified with a whole bunch of other folks here in Ridgecrest in about '92. And since then, once I discovered warm water, once I discovered the Caribbean and the South Pacific, I try to make it a point to go to warm water situations because it's a lot easier every year. As a matter of fact, I've got 2 dives destinations set for February. We're going to the Philippines for about 2 weeks. Diving over there, the water will be probably about 84. No, I've got the dates mixed up, don't I? Yeah, February we're going to a remote set of islands called Raja Ampat, which is in Indonesia, for a couple of weeks. And then in April we're going to the Philippines. And then in May, I've got a group going to Africa, going back to Africa because last year we had such a great time. I took a group of 30 folks over there, 2 different groups, and it was purely a photographic society, a photo safari. Let me get my words straight here, and had a wonderful time. And it was on my bucket list, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm going back the new and improved. I've got 9 folks signed up to go, and I've got more room. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going one way or the other.
So typically when you're going on these dive trips, these are folks that have some type of tie with the Valley, people that have lived here and worked here, or
yeah,
generally?
Basically, I have a email address of about 600 folks. And if I'm thinking about doing something, I'll put something together and then just send out a blanket email, and some people want to tag along. And I never know how many people are interested, and I don't do it for them, I really do it for me. But I've got everything arranged, and all you need to think about is keeping your camera battery charged, you know. And I always go to warm water spots now with scuba diving. If the water's not 80, I'm not jumping in. It's as simple as that. And if you go to the South Pacific, you'll see probably more animal life in one dive than you see in a week in the Caribbean. And so even though it's harder to get to, it's worth it from a cost per dive perspective, if you want to look at it that way. And it's quite the adventure. It really is. And it's absolutely safe, and there's nothing, you know, people are scared of sharks and all that, but people are scared of everything, and there's
yeah, I first dove in Seward, Alaska, right where they had that Exxon Valdez oil spill the year before. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm kind of a precursor for something bad to happen. I also went to Phuket and dove just shortly before the big tsunami that they had there. That was a big loss of life.
Yes.
But you're right. It's a whole adventure. It's the dives. And I'll tell you, the amount of life that I saw when I was in Phuket, the fish were just jumping out by the thousands. And it was just amazing how much wildlife you see, as opposed to, you know, at Cabo San Lucas and some of the other dives I've done. There's still a lot of neat stuff. Hawaii, but just not the same as when you get over to those real warm tropical locations. Now, here's the one thing that I remember learning to dive is I've always been an athlete. And so getting in the water, being a scuba diver is an athletic venture, I told myself, and I was going to have to be in shape and go and do all this. And what I realized is once you get in the water, you're the slowest creature that's in the water.
Yes.
And it's not a run through the water. You're actually taking like a leisurely stroll, almost like a walk through the park. Why don't you describe that a little bit? Is that what you found too?
Well, I think the word stroll is perfect to describe sticking your head underwater, because there's no need to fight the current. You're diving with a bunch of other folks, and you just follow the current. You follow the dive guides. There's a boat up there watching your bubbles, and you don't have to pay too much attention to direction. You know, that's what you're paying your money for, and it just makes it so much more relaxing, and it's just a big kick. And it's an adventure too, because you never know what you're going to see, and it's always strange, it's always colorful, and it's just a real kick. It's just
right. So there could be somebody out here who's a retiree who's never really scuba dove before, but that shouldn't be something to hold them back from a trip like this, right?
No.
So they have to take some training to get the basics. And
most of the resorts that I go to have their own scuba training program, and you can do a resort class, which you can be underwater basically within a couple hours, or you can go with a full-blown scuba class, which is good around the world, and it's good forever. I got Diane certified in the Philippines 5 years ago, and I don't know, she's probably got about 150 dives under her belt now. I've got about 1,200, and it's always exciting. It's just always exciting.
Right. I think I was PADI certified, and I went 8 years without a dive, and I was like, I don't know where my dive card is, and sure enough, they had the records. The resort just had to go ahead and double check, make sure that it was going to be safe. And that's the thing, it's not just a stroll underwater, but there's all this safety equipment and the safety that you're taught. It really is a real safe activity. It's much safer than I think most people would you know, expect.
Well, you know, when Jaws came out, that scared everybody. And kind of typical, but it's really unique to see a shark. being at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, I think I didn't swim in the pool for a year after after Jaws came out.
And I've been on shark feeds where I've seen literally, 50, and they're not interested in you. You know, they're not interested in us humans. It's a lot easier to eat something else.
Right. I was always told that clowns don't have to worry because clowns taste funny. So I'm not sure if that's what the sharks are thinking or not.
Well, I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. And being from the desert, it's kind of almost oxymoron. But I like it, and I'm going to do it till I can't do it anymore. You know, I'm not going to be doing cruises. I'll wait till I can't move for cruises.
All right, we're going to go to break here in just a moment, but I think one of the keys that we're talking about, we want to talk about after break is capturing those moments, because I know you've had some photography background, and we're going to come back after break and talk about some of the photo experience that you have and how you share that with the community. Okay. This is Ridgecrest Talk. We'll be right back after this message. And we're back with Ridgecrest Talk, your host Paul Vanderwerf. We're talking scuba diving all over the world, basically, with Ray Kelso from the Pleistocene Foundation. And Ray, we want to talk about the photo work, but let's just tie in a little bit. How do these trips tie in with your foundation? How does that work?
Well, basically it's learning through travel. You know, when I kind of set this up in my head, I wanted to stay with the environmental issue, and you know, what bigger environmental issue do you have except the ocean, which is 70% of global coverage here. And you know, along with a scuba trip, you can be exposed to another culture and how other people live, work, and so on. And it's taught me a lot about the world in general, and the being exposed to so many things, and you just can't help but learn something. You know, if you don't travel, as far as I'm concerned, you really are missing a lot. You know, you got to, every trip is a page in your book, and you'll learn something from it, and you'll understand what other cultures are doing and what they're thinking, and how they maneuver through reality. And I have lots and lots of friends from all kinds of different countries, whether it be Egypt, Malaysia, Philippines, everywhere. And it's great to have that kind of interface and communication with other cultures.
Now, I don't think I could agree with you more. I remember at Burroughs sitting in the history class how boring that would be. It's just like, okay, when's class going to get over? But then being a circus performer on the East Coast, playing, say, at the parking lot at West Point, and then in between shows or early in the morning going into the museum and getting to see a lot of those artifacts. But that's like the next best thing of actually getting to go to those places and ask questions and get off the path and see what's really going on there. That really is a learning experience that really lights it up. So that ties in, we're learning through travel, and then I always kind of picture you with photography. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Well, you got to document what the hell you're doing, and the way to do it is taking pictures. And I've been doing photography since high school, and it's always, especially when your memory is going, you can always get that photograph back, and it's always great. I put together a DVD every time I do a trip for the people that go with me. And Mac computers are great at that, and it's fairly easy to do, and it helps my memory too.
So it captures those memories.
And
then you also have a lot of technical issues, because you're not just taking simple photos, but some of them are in the water, some of them are real scenic challenges. Yep. And so how do you share those? Do you give talks on that?
Well, and I try to, I've given talks to the our local photographic society here, and I always want to throw in how I did things and this kind of thing, because it's a learning curve, and I don't want to say it's expensive, but it can be expensive. But it's the only way to document, as far as I'm concerned. And you know, we went to Africa here last May, and I took 8,500 pictures. I wanted to catch them lions and tigers and oh my, and that kind of thing. And so you're bound to get something good with.
Out of pure luck, you got you got one good picture.
Yeah,
in there
shooting
for
over
sure, right?
you know, about 80 gig worth of memory. And the scuba diving thing is interesting because the water is a lens itself, and so that throws in a whole big curve.
Right.
On
Everything
that
looks so much
situation.
bigger when you're in the water, and you reach out to touch it, and you think it's right in front of you, but it's 12 feet away instead of 6 feet away.
And it's 25% bigger, and it'll get your attention. It will get your attention. And I do a lot of video, underwater video. And I like that. I like that because it's much more forgiving than a regular snapshot type thing.
Now, you're also doing, just exploring the desert here in the valley and here in the area. What are some of the types of things you're doing here locally? Yeah,
I have a segment there where I call Your Own Backyard. And I've put walks together to Trona, through Poison Canyon. I'm doing an annual walk to Randsburg, which is about 13 miles. And it's just an excuse to get out and move around and see a little bit of the desert. I try to schedule these things in November. And I'm going through the, I can't remember the name of the walking club we have here. I can't, anyway, it's the Over the Hill Track Club.
So we have some different groups of leisure walking, and of course the Over the Hill Track Club's been around forever, but these guys, I think they run everywhere.
Yep, they run everywhere, and a lot of them, you know, the trip will probably, you know, it's 13 miles, and I got 2 water stops, this kind of thing. It's all.
But you're not going on the roads. You're actually starting here
right
in the
through
valley
and
going right over the mountain and
right
there.
Right through the desert. Got a couple water stops, and it's just for walkers. It's not really marathoners, but you know, people run all the way to Randsburg and back, which is, you know, like the Furnish Brothers and that kind of thing. But I just wanted a way to keep me motivated and moving, and I just want to share it. I want to share everything.
Right. So we're going to run out of time here. I want to make sure that the audience gets to hear how to get a hold of you, and if they're interested in finding out more either locally or some of these big trips, what's the easiest ways to get a hold of you? Well,
the best way to get a hold of me is by phone, of course, which is 977-1122. I have a website called Pleistocene Foundation, which I try to keep updated, and I'm doing a poor job of that. Some of the other ways.
How about Facebook? You're on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. In fact, I've got a picture on my Facebook page that shows Bee Mountain being an island here today with the local fog that we had, and I try to post sunset pictures there, and that kind of thing. I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm not leaving, and I'm sticking around. So I'm having too good a time.
Well, Ray, you've got it, sounds like just a whole bunch of different experiences, and that's what happens when you travel. And I think we want to encourage everybody in the community who's able to. You don't know what tomorrow holds. If you can travel today, whether it's just traveling to Randsburg or traveling to Randsburg in Africa, we want to encourage that. It's a great way to learn. Ray, thank you so much for coming on the show. Paul Vanderwerf with Ray Kelso, Ridgecrest Talk. Have a great evening.